But I want to say good evening. My name is Chad Millett. Welcome to the Hustle and Attitude Flag Football Fanatics Coaching Clinic. The other thing I want to make sure I say to you, and I'll probably say it again, is I want to thank you. I want to thank you for volunteering to coach, because it's not a completely thankless job, but it's also not the most thankful job either. The kids you're coaching will probably forget to thank you. The parents of the kids you're coaching may or may not remember to thank you. So I want to thank you. Thank you for doing this. Let's get into the first quarter. Let's talk about dealing with the kids. First thing I want you to do is work really, really hard to get their names down. This may be another use for the duct tape. You put it right across their forehead and put their names, no, not on the forehead. But maybe you put it on their shirt. Maybe you put it on their jersey or on their t-shirt. I had a coach that says that he always keeps his roster with him. Always. So that whenever he's talking, he's Jimmy. And now making a connection. Maybe you recognize, you look like my uncle's wife, and her name is that was a bad example. Let me back up. You look like my uncle, Timmy. Your name is Tim. I got it. Whatever you got to do to come up with a way to remember their names, do it as fast as you can. Because what happens when you don't, and you're like, hey, buddy, welcome to practice. Go ahead and put your stuff over there. All right, buddy, how you doing? Good to see you. Good job, buddy. Wait. Now the kids are like, well, he thinks everybody's name is Buddy. My name's Jim. Try and get their names down. It helps to start build that relationship with them as well. So that, because you're their coach, you're going to be their coach for the next several months. Get their names down as fast as possible. The next thing I want to talk about is getting to deal with the kids on their level, both physically and emotionally. Physically, you're inevitably going to be dealing with kids that are shorter than you. Now, there was a year that we played that we were really confident that the kids that were walking up on the opponents probably drove themselves to the game after shaving or something. I mean, these kids look giant. But most kids aren't going to be that tall. So I'm talking about getting down physically. And you get down on one knee, and now you're addressing them eye to eye. Because here's the deal. No matter what I'm saying, I could be saying the nicest thing, I'm smiling, I'm using my high voice. But if it's coming from this posture, down to a kid, it's intimidating. It doesn't matter what you're saying. It just comes across as intimidating. So get down on their level. You got the whole team together and they all took a knee, take a knee in front of them. So you're all on the same level. Getting on their level emotionally, this is where I'm going to remind you that they're kids. Okay? They're not little adults, and they're not even little high schoolers. If the last time you had an example of coaching was when you played high school football, that's not the model for these kids, because they're not high schoolers. They're little kids. And they're going to do little kid things. Little kids have a really short attention span. Is there a better picture of a bored kid than? So they have short attention spans. So you need to keep it simple and brief. Pre-game speech, if you're given directions, it's got to be short. It's got to be quick. Find a way to say it in 30 seconds. If you're gathering the team together and you're keeping them there for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're losing them. Pre-game speeches, it's not the time to win it for the Gipper. Right? You've got about enough time to go get them, guys. And you lost like 3 of them at get them. The other things that are up there, keeping them busy and turning everything into a game, we're going to talk about that in the second quarter when we talk about practices. Okay? Keeping them busy and turning everything into a game. Hands up if you are not coaching your own kid. Typical. Everybody is coaching their own child on the team. There was a year, I'm retired Air Force, our first duty station in New Mexico. We didn't have kids yet. I went and volunteered for the base Little League team. I was one of the assistant coaches. I showed up, a couple practices in, one of the moms is like, hey, thanks for helping out with the team. You seem to do a great job with the kids. Which one of them's yours? I'm like, oh, none of them. And she went. Right, all of a sudden I'm creepy, right? No. There's nothing. I like baseball. I like coaching. Good. You guys are coaching your kids. You won't get accused of being creepy. What do you suppose is the primary thing we're concerned with when we're coaching our own kid? Favoritism. The hint of favoritism, the perception of favoritism, any kind of inkling that looks like you're favoring your son. You know, Chad's kids seem to play 4 quarters, and Billy only plays 2 a game. That doesn't seem fair. And Chad's kid plays quarterback every game. Billy keeps telling me he wants to play quarterback. You can't have any inkling that you are favoring your child. When we get to, in the third quarter, we'll talk about managing games and setting lineups. You have to be deliberate when you're setting lineups in keeping track of how many people have played, how many quarters have they played, and how many positions have they played, so that you are mindful that you're not playing favorites with anybody. The flip side to this is that you treat your kids differently than you treat the other kids. There's the favoritism side with respect to they get preferential treatment. And here's the deal. If not paying attention when an adult is talking merits a lap around the garbage can, then it merits a lap around the garbage can for your son or daughter just as much as it does everybody else. But here's the deal. It's not, if that's the discipline, then it's a lap around the garbage can, not because it's your kid, a lap around the end zone all the way at the other end, right? So you need to treat your kids the same. You may have a standard of discipline that is much stricter in your own house than you are willing to apply to other people's kids. And you're going to have a bunch of other people's kids. And so you're probably going to have a team discipline level that, if you're like me, is not nearly as strict as your discipline level in your house. Be careful your kids don't take advantage of that. My kids started acting up. Ooh, Dad lets us get away with stuff. So at the end of that season, I told them I was done. I'm not coaching you guys anymore. Dad, we love it when you coach. I said, and I really like coaching you guys. But you treat me differently than every other adult you ever interact with, and it really makes me mad, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So they were like, fine. And largely they didn't, and they were good about it. They recognized it. Another thing with respect to the level of discipline, I love this picture, by the way. This is me coaching. It's my son Jason with the left-handed throw. That's my son Cameron, who I believe caught the ball. I don't remember how the play ended up, but I remember my wife was ecstatic. She got all three of us in the frame, so it was awesome. This one, he's the site director here at Beaver Creek, and it's no surprise he's the site director at Beaver Creek because he's been telling people what to do since he was like 7 years old. Because he would talk to people. You ever get scolded by a peer? Somebody who's your level is trying to talk to you like they're your boss or a parent? Well, that's Jason, man. He would do that all the time. So I would look, hey, Coach Millette, why don't you calm down? Oh, you're not Coach Millette. I am. Knock it off. I would never publicly shame any of the other kids on the team by mocking them like that in front of the rest of the team. Wouldn't even enter my mind. I would never think of it. Had no problem doing it to my own kid, though, because he's got to go home. He's got to go home with me. So I realized as I started doing these clinics, I start telling that story. It's like an AA thing. I feel like I've got to, make amends. I go back and Jason, I'm really sorry that I did that. He says, did what? I said, I called you out in front of your teammates. He says, I don't even remember. Like a burning hole of sorrow in my heart, and he doesn't even remember it happened. So if you tend to treat your kids differently, remember, treating them the same and treating everybody fairly goes both stricter, less stricter. It goes both ways, exactly. I always try to have fun awards at the end of a game, and here's the reason. If you coach the way I coach, like I said, we lost a lot because we would play teams that didn't coach this way. And so we would come up, I'd have fun awards, offensive and defensive MVP awards. It's an NFL-affiliated flag football league. So these aren't it, but I would buy the wristbands of the team that we were, right? My wife hated this. 5 seasons I coached, asked Joey to be the Patriots every year, got the Patriots 1 time. Lions twice, Cardinals once, and Vikings. And I'm buying wristbands. My wife's like, couldn't you just get black wristbands for the Cardinals? I'm like, I could, but it won't have the Cardinals logo on it. So I get the wristbands, 2 wristbands. At the end of the game, if we lost 35-0, somebody was still the best offensive player on our team, and someone was still the best defensive player on the team. You give them a wristband. Next game, the only players on our team wearing a wristband are the ones that won the MVP award from the previous game. It's special. They're the only ones that have them. If somebody asks them, how come you got wristbands? What do those mean? They can say, oh, I was the offensive MVP last time. End of the game, they give them back to you. You hold them like this because they're gross. You pick a new offensive and defensive MVP. You toss them to those kids. They take them home. Their parents wash them because, again, they were gross. They wear them for the next game. At the end of the year, the kid that was the best player on offense the whole season, maybe they keep them. I don't want Cardinals wristbands in my house. So you let them keep them. Now, I would keep track of who got them, but not so I made sure everybody got them one time. Okay, this is not a every kid gets a trophy thing, which we can have a philosophical discussion after the clinic. I don't think is absolutely terrible, by the way. But this is not the every kid gets a trophy thing, because if you give an offensive MVP award and you give it to Billy and the team is like, Billy? Every time Billy ran a pattern, he tripped himself. Offensive MVP. If you do that, you've lost them. And now they don't care about it anymore. Because it doesn't matter how old they are. They're going to catch on. Oh, it doesn't really mean Billy wasn't the offensive MVP. We know Tommy had a better offensive game. So it doesn't mean anything. If you want it to mean something, you don't give it out to everybody. That's where kind of the Hustle and Attitude Award comes in. It's an NFL-affiliated youth flag football league. So I would go and buy football cards. If you go to the dollar store, you can get last year's football cards. You can get a bunch of them for $1 a pack or less. Got 8 games, you buy 8 packs. At the end of the game, somebody best displayed hustle and attitude. Somebody was the best at hustle and attitude, so you identify them. And this is an opportunity where maybe one of your kids who would never get the offensive or defensive MVP award, but they get the hustle and attitude award because they did something that showed a great attitude or they hustled really hard. So at the end of the game, you're like, remember when Billy fell down and then got up and chased the kid all the way to the other side of the field and almost got his flag? That's what I'm talking about, guys. That's hustle and attitude. Great job, Billy. You give him a pack of cards. Billy rips open the pack of cards. He's rifling through. Where's the Andy Dalton? Where's the A.J. Green? Right? It's a win-win, because every time they got to a Patriots card, I'd be like, no, don't tear that up. I'll take it. I get Patriots cards out of it. It doesn't have to be wristbands and a pack of cards. But if you have something at the end of the game, regardless, every kid knows whether they won or lost. Even if they don't, you don't have to have a scoreboard. Every kid knows, because they know that when that ball crosses the line and they celebrate, that's really good. And the other team did that more times than we did. They must have won. So win or lose, we could have a positive discussion because somebody was the offensive MVP, someone was the defensive MVP, and someone best displayed hustle and attitude.